it's been quite a while since I've done one of these. Just a little standard, oh, I'm gonna stand back a little bit. I'm gonna stand right here, that's good. Just a little standard movie review. As you can tell by the title, this one's gonna be about the 28, I think it came out in 2018. No, it came out in 2019. It came out in January 18th. The Glass movie, M. Night Shyamalan's latest and greatest. This is sort of, I think this is an interesting twist in itself. I know that he's known for twists, but just for his career in the sense that it's a sequel to two of his previous movies, Unbreakable and Split. So I thought that was interesting. I don't think that he's done too many sequels to his work. Not that I've heard of. I don't know really anything about M. Night Shyamalan, and so that could be entirely wrong, and I wouldn't know. And at the same time, I don't know if I'd care. But yeah, so if you guys know me, I will exploit anything that I do for content. I try to find content in everything that I do. And I saw Glass last night, so let's get right into it. The basic plot of Glass is, how do I describe this? It sort of continues upon the plot from I haven't seen Unbreakable, but I'm going to make a lot of assumptions here. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. So it continues the plot from Unbreakable and Split in the sense that James from Split is capturing girls and letting the beast go and murdering them, and David Dunn, I believe, Bruce Willis, he's like a vigilante stopping petty crimes even though he's like a superhero. So the plot of this is they're on a collision course essentially, and once they do collide and Bruce Willis and James are fighting, they get interrupted by this super secret psychiatric hospital organization and they get taken away. And then like 50% of the movie is in a hospital, and then they break out, and then the movie pretty much ends in like the front yard of the psychiatric hospital. That is like the most boiled down version of the plot that you will find. Okay. To get into a little bit more of the specifics, in terms of the themes at play, and I guess I'll segue into the tone here. So some of the main themes are, I guess, appearance versus reality. That's my nose. That's a really general one that you can sort of extrapolate and then apply to anything. But with this, it's actually sort of applicable in the sense where a lot of the plot points, narrative points, revolve around Sarah Paulson's character trying to convince James, Bruce Willis, and then Samuel L. Jackson, who reprises his role from Unbreakable, that they're not in fact superheroes and that they're just regular people, and she tries to go through a scientific route of explanation to convince them. And so that's sort of the appearance versus reality, because it appears that they are in fact superhero. I mean, we see all of the feats that James performed from Split, the climbing on the walls, the physical augmentation that he goes through when he's the beast. We see Bruce Willis's examples of being superhero. I mean, he's got the strength of the beast essentially. But then they try to go. M. Night Shyamalan tries to go through the path of reality, which might be there's a scientific explanation. You have frontal lobe damage causing you to believe this. James, you watched a lot of rock climbing videos. That sort of explains your ability to replicate that rock climbing, which is interesting. I sort of enjoyed that. I sort of enjoyed trying to strip away what made the characters, and it sort of put them in very interesting. There were a couple scenes that I liked here where you saw that, James, Bruce Willis, they were dealing with the implication of what if they weren't in fact superheroes? What if they were just very troubled, very sick members of society? And I really liked that. I liked that turn that M. Night had gone with characters, and it opened up a lot of interesting plot points. Opened up the ability to have a nice redemption at the end, a resurgence of their belief in their abilities. That was really nice to see. However, the tone of this film is a bit weird in the sense that it clashes from time to time. A lot of this movie is, I can't click this, because if I click this, it'll show up on there. And for the 2 people that probably watch this, and we're 5 minutes in. No one's probably gonna get to this point, which is cool. Tonally, it clashes a bit because part of it's concerned with being a super self-aware comic book film in the sense that Samuel L. Jackson is the one who most propagates this. He literally says in the movie, "Oh, this is when the showdown's going to happen. This is when the climax is going to happen," as if it were a comic book. And so that was sort of woven throughout. But then you also had a lot of more dramatic tones. I just clicked it again. You have a lot more dramatic tones between Bruce Willis and his son. You have the father-son relationship and sort of the depth that Bruce Willis brings to that character, the authenticity. And then you have sort of the split tones, which is interesting how they went. They brought back Anna Taylor Conway, I believe is her name, and they pushed like this really it's like an intimate relationship between her and Kevin Crumb James, and that sort of clashes a little bit with the tone as well. But I just did it again. I'm so sorry for the one person that's probably watching this. But I mean, I don't really know how much I can knock that, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is such a half-baked review. I literally just wrote down a couple points that aren't even points, really. They're just topics to go through. I don't really have any speaking points. It was good. The dialogue actually was the thing that I wanted to mention. I think that a lot of it was pretty rough throughout the film. Not really too good on the dialogue side of things, which sucked. I know M. Night Shyamalan, he had a... Oh, boy. He had a cameo. It was pretty annoying, pretty rough. But yeah, I mean that's probably one of the biggest complaints I have is the dialogue. It's just, I don't know, it's just stupid in so many places, so many scenes that I'm just like, what? Why? And that sort of leads me to the characters, which was less of a sin. I really enjoyed some of the characters. I really like Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. I like those characters. I saw Split. I liked James. But I wasn't really a huge fan of Sarah Paulson. I think that when you have someone with the range of her and you don't utilize it, you kind of just relegate her into a psychiatrist who doesn't blink type of role, because I don't think she blinked in the entire film. I don't think she did. But I feel like that was the one, like the characters that were already established, they were good, you know. But the new stuff that they brought in, not so good. However, I do want to mention the biggest highlight of this film is James McAvoy's ability to snap between different characters. I mean, his range is incredible, and I really like what M. Night did to show it off, because there's like literally a dozen different characters that James McAvoy plays, and each one is so good, I guess is the word. It's so good in the sense where it's believable. I'm like, yeah, that works. And he really, I mean, James McAvoy really gets into the performance to the extent where each different character has their own type of gait, their own walking, and so it's just, I mean, that's the biggest highlight for me, was seeing that. And there's a couple scenes where they'll like force him to go through different personalities, because like apparently his weakness is flashing lights, and so they'll flash lights at him and he'll switch personalities, and that was cool. Moving on to the shots, the shot composition. I thought it was fine. There were cool shots in here where the camera would be like up and then it would like go around and everything would be upside down. I thought that was cool. I thought it was fine. Nothing too spectacular, but yeah, it was okay. Oh, now we're score. Actually, you know what? I did like the score of this. I really enjoyed the score of this. It sort of had a lot of those same beats from Split with the thriller noises, but then it also had this weird, like, righteous, uplifting superhero music almost. And so it worked together more times than it didn't, which I was a fan of. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, that's cool. It helped uplift the scenes that there was a score, which is my main thing. And now to move to the pros and cons. Ah, big boy. His big thirst. One pro, obviously I already mentioned it, James Mitch Avi, his acting ability, it's really phenomenal. I would recommend this movie simply because of his acting and just to see it. Another pro, like the colors, there was a lot of nice interesting colors that, you know, it was very distinct for each character. I like that. It wasn't super bland. The hospital was pretty bland in the sense where it was like all white. But you know what, here's the thing. This movie was such an A for effort. That's the best way to describe this movie. It was a really good effort at making a team up, not a team up, but like a collaboration between separate intellectual properties. It was a good effort. I mean, M. Night is not really the guy that you want to bring in to do that. I think his track record's a bit too spotty these days to reliably or consistently put out something good. And so I don't think that he's that reliable when it comes to, you know, if you're going to have a big project like this, which could make or break a franchise, which is what I'm assuming the point of this is, I don't think M. Night's the guy. But, as I just mentioned, good effort. I will say before I get into the cons that I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would. I would honestly say it's like a C. I know it's listed as like a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'd give it a C. I'd go as far to give it a C because like the production quality was really good. It was really solid. It was there. I mean, Universal Studios produced it, and so you had a lot of that nice visuals. Sorry, I just had to take a call from my dad. Let's get back into it. So, what I was talking about before I got the call was the visuals of it and sort of why I think that it's much better than a 36% is because whenever I look at a movie, I try to think of it as a holistic type thing, which includes a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, a lot of the pre-production, the post-production aspect, as opposed to the movie itself. Because as much as you can critique a film for what it is, which is completely, I mean, that's fine. But I like to go the extra mile and sort of try to incorporate into my thoughts on the film the amount of work that goes into it, because I think that's an aspect of film that is glossed over a lot more than I think it should be, because there is a lot of work that goes in. There's hundreds of people that work on these films, and that's why I think it's really difficult to get a movie that's worse than like probably a C. So I guess my metric, my rating is a C is the worst it can be, which would translate it to an F, but whatever. Because nowadays, I mean, the movies have a lot of production, and I guess it depends on the studio. This is a terrible start. What am I trying to say? Movies that are produced by huge production companies like Universal, like Warner Brothers, they have these big budgets, and so obviously the visuals are going to look well. Obviously the sound is going to be pretty solid. And so all of that really accumulates up to about a C by itself. I mean, you could have like a really shitty plot, really shitty dialogue, blah, 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 but there's a lot that you're already good on in the visuals, in the sound, in the etc. And so it's like the lowest you could go is a C in my book, is that's what I'm trying to say. That'll change. I flip my philosophies all the fucking time, but yeah. So let's get into the cons. I think I didn't get into the cons. So the cons is the twist for this film. Didn't particularly enjoy. There were about 3 twists, I believe, which was a bit much, and they all happened within about 5-minute intervals. The main twist was that these people were in fact superheroes, and that the corporation was tasked with trying to convince them they weren't, and then terminating them, which I don't understand, because everyone just ends up dying, so I don't understand why they brought them in the first place. I guess to try to convince them, but if they're gonna be murdered anyways, what's the point in trying to convince them? It doesn't really make sense. It's like a waste of time almost. What else didn't I like? There was a bit. I mean, I walked out of there not too impressed. I think so. Where everybody practically dies at the end, which was a little funny. I guess when I mentioned before about a franchise, they ended it themselves essentially. So you had James McAvoy dying, you had Bruce Willis dying, and you had Samuel L. Jackson dying, and it's just so what happens to James McAvoy, and he. Okay, let me get into. I'm really tired right now. So, Anna Conway Taylor, I think is her name. Taylor Anna Conway. I don't know, whatever. Her role in the film is like this, as I mentioned before. She has like an intimate relationship with James, Kevin, and it's sort of built up that she like cares about him and is against these people hurting him. But then at the end, she like moves him so that he gets shot by a sniper rifle. And it was confirmed that was intentional on her part because then the dude radios in and goes, oh, she got him to move. So I'm assuming that there was some collusion between her and these guys to move him to be shot. So that sort of calls into question the legitimacy of her intimacy with him throughout the film, because it's just sort of weird. Like, why would you have these scenes where she's like crying and being super emotional if she just doesn't care and then lets him die? And I thought, I mean, there was and that's the thing, is like, he did have a nice dying scene, but it just didn't feel earned because the rest of the whole build up to it was just, everything was weird. Bruce Willis got drowned in a puddle. No, I'm not kidding. That was so stupid. I guess the reason that because his weakness is water, which is a very inconvenient weakness, and so some dude just dragged him and then put his face in a puddle and drowned him, and then he died. And then Samuel L. Jackson's whole thing is he's got like super brittle bones, and so what ended up occurring was James McAvoy. It was revealed that Samuel L. Jackson had played James McAvoy, and so James got angry and grabbed Samuel L. Jackson's shoulder, breaking it, and then like punched his chest, and they died from that. But the main con that I had, that's sort of a plot hole, is like I'm just confused as to why Samuel L. Jackson was there in the first place. Because it's not like he had a super discernible superpower. Like, yeah, sure, he was super intelligent. Unbelievably intelligent. But, like, what was his superpower? Other than being intelligent. Because he was confined to a wheelchair. And that was that. I mean, he's just a smart dude in a wheelchair. So, like, I don't know what instigated him being there. It's never really explained how long he had been there beforehand. It's just weird. But, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm tired and I didn't really have as much to say about this as I thought I would, mostly because I didn't really think about it. I just turned on the camera and started speaking. Not the best move on my part. But, anyway, so that's Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's latest, and so yeah, I'd say about a C, like a 72 is probably where I put this movie. I recommend it for James McAvoy's acting, but other than that, I mean, stupid movie. But anyways, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate the support. Be sure to check us out on the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, the website, the podcast, really anything that we got going. Be sure to drop a like, whatever. I mean, it's whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you cats in the next one.